Namaste and welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Louisa and I am presenting some information on things that I've learned along the way to help me recover from experiences of emotional, psychological distress, mental illness, dark nights of the soul, many terms for these things, and also my own inner guidance, things that I've learned through my awakening, my evolution of my soul on this planet, what I'm learning, what I'm remembering, more like it. Most of this is memory that's returning to us at this time. So it isn't new knowledge, it's ancient knowledge, but it's new and fresh in that we have to take this knowledge and apply it to this context of the now, in this moment, living on planet Earth. It is 2019. It is June the 15th, I think, today, nearly the solstice point, a point of powerful receiving and giving on this planet that's coming up soon. So it felt like the right time to perhaps share something that I've been wanting to impart, some wisdom, some practical tools for you to use in your own journey of healing and growth. So my video might apply to you if you are recovering from some kind of mental or psychological distress. But I think, we're almost getting to the point now where those kinds of distinctions are quite pointless because we're all going through stuff. It's a very intense time. So this is a piece of remembering, a piece of the puzzle that might really assist you. So the topic is working with visualization for healing, and another word for this is journeying. I learnt this originally as a technique of journeying, which is what the indigenous shamans in various cultures around the world use to access the higher dimensions and to access collective ancient knowledge that's held in our DNA, held in the coding of our cellular memory, and is accessible, but only when we invite it and we allow ourselves to go into, I guess it's an altered state of consciousness. But I don't want people to think that this is it is magical, but that it's an out of reach supernatural thing. It's actually very natural to be able to access our own inner wisdom and the inner realms, but it's just that we've so separated from that ability in our societies that it appears magical. And I think a lot of us have grown up with this concept that people who do this are somehow really special and unusual, and I guess in the shamanic culture, it was the shaman of the village or the community would be the one who would be most skilled at this. So they were seen as special. So perhaps you may have this idea that this is not something that you can do. This is only something that special people can do or mystics can do. So this is something we can all do. And I feel like this knowledge is becoming available to more people on the planet now as we are all awakening, and we're more able to use these techniques to assist us in healing the wounded parts of ourselves. This is so important because I believe that it's almost the most important work you could do is to heal yourself at this time and to learn to integrate the energies of the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual bodies, and to integrate within the polarities, the darkness within, the light within, to reject neither, to integrate them literally, to make a space for both of those things, to integrate the masculine and the feminine of our psyches. So there's a lot of integrating that needs to be happening inside us, and this technique can help us. There can be some resistance to this initially. I think in the Western cultures especially, we've denounced this kind of inner knowing. Some of you may have been chastised for daydreaming or wishful thinking, for being too emotional. There's a kind of a blanket mistrust of the non-rational mind, the unconscious. And even when we have an amazing dream that imparts so much relevant wisdom for ourselves, the reaction can sometimes be to just dismiss it. It's just a dream, it means nothing. And I challenge that, and I say that everything means something. Everything in the universe has a meaning, and that meaning is a personal one. It's not like we can necessarily go to a dream book and open it up and go, losing teeth means this. But there are a lot of patterns, so those books can be useful. But ultimately, it's what does it mean to you? And this is the deep, sacred communication that you have always with the universe, yourself and the universe, this relationship you have with the world, which ultimately is you. The world is an external manifestation of the universe within. So these concepts are, big and amazing and magical, I think. But yeah, learning to trust this source of wisdom and integrate it into your everyday practice so that you can actually resolve your problems, you can make decisions. These techniques are really fantastic when you're stuck with fear for making one decision one way or the other, or when you're really troubled by a relationship, any situation where the mind has come to its limits, where you just can't figure it out from a mental space. This kind of technique is really going to help you, and it's also really helpful for healing past trauma, for childhood wounds, for things that lie in the unconscious, the subconscious, that have been buried there for a really good reason, because at the one time they were just too painful for you to integrate, for you to accept. A lot of times those memories are forgotten altogether. And you don't necessarily need to remember those traumatic memories. Sometimes this work that I'm about to share with you can actually be of a healing in itself, just through the story that you come up with in your imagination that is going to guide you to the healing. A bit like, have you ever watched a movie that really represents the inner pain that you're feeling about some issue, and then you really find a resolution from watching that movie? That movie's not your story necessarily, exactly how it panned out, but you can relate to it so much. So it's healing because of that. This could be for you the start of a really amazing journey into discovery of what's in your unconscious and what's in your heart. And all right, so I'm going to talk you through some tips on how to do this, and I just want to say first of all that you can trust yourself, that this whole process of visualizing for healing, or journeying as it is called in shamanic practice, requires practice to learn to trust yourself. Depends where you start on this. If you come from a very open-minded place and you've already been doing this, quite naturally since you were a little kid, or you grew up in a family that showed you how to do this, or a community, then it may be really easy for you to trust. But for a lot of us folks that have a very we've placed a lot of emphasis on the mental side, intellectual, rational side, it could be a while before you actually learn to trust what comes up for you. So just that's okay, and that's going to be natural and might take a while. But I think it helps with that to think of visualization as a type of lucid dreaming, because we can all relate to dreams. And even though we might dismiss it, it's just a dream, most people have had at one point a dream that is just so obviously not just a dream. This dream tells you so much about what you need to know, or it's prophetic. Maybe it gives you information that then happens, down the track. So that experience of dreaming, you can relate. This is like dreaming. You're consciously dreaming. You're inviting yourself to dream. You're going into what the Aboriginal people would call the dreaming. That great, huge collective database that exists for all of us that we can access of information. You could also think of it as accessing the astral plane, where truth is represented by metaphor in the astral plane. So it's going to be rich in symbolism. If in a dream, if you're having a lot of dreams of being chased, or a very common one is a house, dreaming of a house falling down, flooding, fire, that kind of thing. These are all symbols that, your house standing perhaps for your ego, symbols of your fear, of anxieties, of losing things. It might be a symbol for great change. It's rich in symbolism. Everything means something in the astral plane. So that's where we're going to go. All right, so the first tip that I wanted to share was grounding. I think it is really important to be grounded when you consciously attempt to do visualization like this, because think of it like you're connecting a phone line between your physical self in this body and your spiritual self. It's actually a phone line that's going all the way up through the chakras and through the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body, the essential body. So it's a phone line, right? So you want that connection to be really clear and not distorted, and you want to try and stay in the body, because you're going to get information and you're going to need to interpret it through all of those layers. So grounding is important, and preparing yourself for it. I mean, nowadays, if I do a journey, I do take, I'm kind of, it's almost a day process. I'm aware that I'm going to be doing it maybe later that afternoon, and so I don't pack in a whole lot of things in that day. I make sure that it's a quiet day and that I'm calm and rested. A couple of hours before I do my visualization, I'll start to tune into it. I'll start to think about it, and perhaps singing songs for me helps me to tune into my body and to rest my mind and to cultivate that space that I need for this work. You might do meditation, you might go for a walk in nature, you might have a little sleep, whatever it is for you that makes you feel really relaxed and grounded in your body. I wouldn't eat too heavy a meal, because you don't want to fall asleep, and you want to be, I guess, physically lighter so that you can rise up in consciousness to receive these messages more clearly. So probably a heavy meal isn't going to help with that, but we're all different, so and I definitely don't do this with psychoactive drugs either, and I know it's tempting to, because you think, well, it's only going to enhance the journey, especially drugs like marijuana, cannabis. There's a place for that. I don't believe that those drugs are bad. The natural plant medicines, I think shamans have been using them forever to cultivate these experiences, but unless you're really proficient at it, you don't need those drugs. And I think it's better to start with basics, to start with yourself. You only need yourself. You need, in fact, a clearer head as you can get, the clearest head you can get, and then you'll really trust it. Because if you're relying on drugs to achieve it, you may think, well, it was just the drug. So I would love for you to actually experience the joy of being able to do this anytime, anywhere. You don't need anything for this but yourself. That is so powerful. And then down the track, I've used psychoactive plant medicines to experience amazing journeys, which are so therapeutic, so mind-blowing, and there's a place for them. But it was only when I'd really done a lot of work on myself first. Anyway, there's no rules with this stuff, you guys are all adults out there, so I just wanted to throw that in, that I think it's better if you can do it without. And you can do it without, that's the great thing. It's very empowering to know that. So grounding, use your breath, use physical relaxation, maybe do some movement as well, that can really help. You might also want to, I didn't actually put this in my tips, but part of grounding would be to create your sacred space. So for some people, you might not be into crystals or sage or smudging or things like that, but I think anything you can do along those lines, it's ritualizing what you're about to do, it's honoring, it's paying reverence. So however that looks for you, and for a lot of people it involves, getting your favorite stones and crystals and setting up some kind of a circle or a space, or maybe burning a candle to signify the light. So you can do all sorts of things. Certainly make sure that you're going to have no interruptions. Yes. Okay. So tip number 2 was your inner safe space. So your inner safe space this is a good one maybe to start with. Like if you've never done this before, you could do this first and see what you come up with, because this space you're going to cultivate is going to be your safe place that you can go to in your mind and your heart. And it may be important that you have that safe space. Some of us come to this work with a lot of unresolved trauma still inside us, a lot of pain that hasn't had a voice yet. So sometimes when we open ourselves up to an invitation to receive messages from our higher self or from our heart, that pain that's been kind of sitting there, stored, waiting to just be heard, can pop out in some images that may be disturbing, or you could get frightened. You can have a negative reaction to this work. So your safe space is going to be where you go to if you start to feel uncomfortable. And for me, I speak from experience here because I had, I suppose, spontaneous journeys that would go into the inner realms when I was going through severe mental health crises, which were categorized as psychosis. So that was, not a fun experience and very frightening. And my imagination would sort of leap from one scary thing to another. And I worked with a lovely lady who taught me how to create my safe space inside my imagination. So for me, that was actually really important. You may not need that though. We're all different. It depends where you're at, how integrated you are, how grounded you are. I was very ungrounded at that point, so I needed my safe space. So your safe space, you can. This could be your first journey that you do, that you quieten the mind and take some breaths, and then just allow yourself to imagine this place that would be your most calming landscape, your most beautiful home. What does the word home evoke for you? And it could be somewhere very unearth-like. It might be some beautiful castle in the clouds, or a hot air balloon as far away from Earth as you can get. It might be very grounded. It might be in a forest or an island, or you get the drift, right? So you can create whatever feels beautiful and safe to you. And the thing about the safe place, it might be a house, or it might just be completely in nature, but it's going to have a really good security system. So this is an important note, especially for people who have, like I said, a lot of unresolved trauma sitting in there and a lot of inner conflict. Create yourself a security system that is going to protect you from those unwanted thought forms that might come up for you. Fear, strong fear, represented as something. So in my safe house, I created like a kind of a circle of really strong trees that were kind of growing together, and there was no way that anyone could get through. And the gate was also like a magical kind of gate with vines that interlocked, so no one could ever get inside it. So that was a kind of a magical security system. You can have any security system that your imagination comes up with. It might be white light, or a moat, or protected by some mythical creature, I don't know. Go to town and enjoy creating what feels like a really good security system for you. And you can test it as well. So once you've created it in your imagination, test it out. Imagine an enemy at the gate, and then trying to open it and see if it opens. So once you've got your safe place, and once you feel like it's really secure, you can go into asking for information. So this is where the journeying becomes really healing and powerful. Often when I journey, I have the drum beat behind me. So if you can download a drum rhythm from wherever you get your music. I will post some links below to Sandra Ingerman's. She's a wonderful teacher on the subject. I can recommend her books. I've done a course with her that will give you some more guidance in depth than I will in this short video, but also there's some drumming music available to you. So these journeys are really great to do with the drum music. They do evoke a meditative state and really help you to relax and go into this. It's almost like a trance, to a dreamlike state, so you can access information. So what information are you going to want to access? Well, first of all, you might want to, I'm just going to give you some ideas here. Like, it's endless, it's infinite. You can do so many things. And in shamanic culture, there's a whole kind of system that you can utilize. There's lower worlds and middle worlds and upper worlds, and it gets very, very technical and interesting, I guess. So I'm just But I'm not going to go into all of that right now. I'm just going to go into like some really basic things that can help you on your healing journey if that's where you want to go. So one thing you can do is you can ask to be shown a landscape or an environment that best represents your current situation. So as an example, if you're feeling bereft or abandoned or alone, you might be shown a desert, or you might be shown being stuck in a little tight cave or something like that. So the landscape and the environment is going to be really rich in meaning. Another thing you can do is you can imagine a pathway leading to a door, and then so the pathway, imagine it in detail. When I say imagine a pathway, I'm talking about like really imagine, where am I? Is it a forest? Is it a desert? Is it walking along a beach? What is it, right? Usually people choose natural environments for these things just intuitively, but yours may be a city. That's fine. It doesn't matter. You've got to trust the information that comes to you. Don't try and censor it. If you have a strange image that pops into your head and then another part of you goes, that can't be right. I can't have a pathway in a city. Like, that's not very mystical. Don't allow that censoring to happen. Trust what comes up. This is going to teach you to trust yourself. And soon as you get better and better, you're just going to trust yourself like that. There's not going to be any doubt, right? It's just going to, whatever comes to you is the truth for you at that time, and that's what you need to receive. So you're going to imagine this pathway, and then you're going to see a door. And again, I want you to imagine that door in detail if you can, seeing what it's made of and where is it and how big is it and what does the knob look like. Is there a knob? So how do you get into this door? All the infinite ways that your imagination can conjure a door for you. And know that behind that door is a part of yourself that you want to be more in touch with. So maybe on this journey you would like to meet an inner guide, some part of you, some aspect of yourself that can offer you wisdom at this time. You might, if you're feeling brave and not too troubled, I wouldn't recommend doing this initially. Maybe start with the inner guide, but if you're prepared to and you need to, you can contact the more troubling characters in your life, such as the inner critic. You might ask to meet your wounded inner child. Again, it's endless. You can even ask to meet other people. So let's say you have a fractured relationship with your mother or your father. You can actually ask to meet a representative of that person so that you can receive some information about that. So maybe it's guidance about them, or maybe it's their higher self. You can communicate with a representation of the higher self of the person that you want to speak with. Again, it's pretty endless, the possibilities. You can, power animals are also really lovely to meet. Animals that will assist you and guide you on this stage of your journey. So there's any part of you that you want to meet. And you can also ask to meet an emotion. So it doesn't have to be a person. Let's say you're really struggling with feeling angry and you just don't understand why. Ask to meet your anger. And when you open that door, so this is the moment you've asked now to meet whatever it is, you're going to open that door, and whatever you see when you open that door, that is the thing that you trust. Not that you have to trust the information necessarily coming from that being, because that's the next step I'm going to talk about, but trust what you see as being rich in information for you. Like, whatever it is going to be important, right? So if you've asked to meet your wounded, your inner child, and you open the door and the child, you're seeing an empty room, trust that. Just trust it. There's a reason why that room is empty. Where's the child? Don't know, but you're about to find out, okay? So, tip 4, this leads me to when things do not go so well. Usually with these journeys, if you're asking to meet an inner guide and, you open up the door and there's this beautiful angelic being and they're giving you some gifts and imparting some wisdom, you can have a chat with this part of yourself. It can be really, really rewarding. You can ask questions. What do I need to do right now? Who are you? Why are you in my life? Be playful with it and see what comes up. That's all very well. It can be a very nice experience. But sometimes we meet with hostility. And so this is the tip 4 is when we meet with hostility, what should we do? And the reason we meet with hostility, like I said before, is because there's unresolved trauma and pain within us. There's memories, there's parts of us that have been denied and repressed for so long. They just cannot wait for you to open that door. And they sometimes they're really angry at you that you haven't been listening to them. So, and maybe it wasn't you that didn't listen to them. Maybe it was your parents that didn't listen to that little wounded child. Maybe that child's really angry or in a lot of grief. But they're angry at you now because you're the one that's opened that door, and you're the one responsible for that part in a sense, because that part is you. So you could well meet with a part that's very hostile. And I just want to say that right up front so that you don't get scared by that if it does happen, because again, you want to trust everything that happens. It is happening for a reason, and it's actually really valuable that you've made contact with this part of you that was so hostile that perhaps it's been completely repressed from your experience and you never knew it was there. Now, if meeting that hostile part feels like something you can manage in the moment, that you're willing to perhaps communicate with that hostile part or sit with it or do something intuitively, just like you would do if you met a hostile human being or a hostile animal, then by all means go ahead, because that could be a really healing experience for you. Let's say you meet a hostile animal in your, it's a part of you, you've asked to meet your anger, and you open up the door and there's this growling, spitting dog with fangs in the corner of the room, and it comes to you to quieten down, get on your knees perhaps, and walk up to the dog and look it in the eyes, with power, and the dog settles down and you feel like you can do that, then do it. That's going to be really healing for you. If, however, you open the door and you see that dog and it terrifies you and all you want to do is slam the door shut, right? Go with how you feel. Don't override what is happening. It's just like a dream. You're trying to trust it. And the difference between this process and dreaming is that you actually are in charge, right? When you're in a dream, usually, you're not lucid enough to change the dream, stop the dream, amend the dream. You're whatever happens, and then it turns into a nightmare. So you are in control of this, and you can stop it at any time. So this hostility, though, I am going to talk about your safety and sovereignty more in just a second, but this hostility, see it as valuable, because, like I said, it actually is a part of you that wants validation, that wants to begin communicating with you. And maybe the beginning is just simply seeing that it's there and then thanking it. It's always a really good idea to thank and bless any experiences that you have, whether good or bad, or you feel like it's deceiving you or something. It's okay, you're still going to learn something from it. So you thank that, you thank the learning, thank the message, and shut the door and leave, keeping yourself, safe and comfortable. I just want to see if I've missed anything here from my notes. I might just kind of read a little bit of this to you. So, meeting such hostile aspects is a powerful and positive step to healing. Yes, they are difficult aspects to confront, and we may recoil from their hostility, feel afraid of them, and not know how to help them. But one of the most powerful medicines of the human heart is that of loving validation and awareness. When we witness our own inner pain, seen as an aspect of self, we can begin to release that aspect from the burden of carrying that pain. We can thank that aspect for holding that pain for so many years out of our sight until we were ready to deal with it. Yeah, so it's very powerful, and if you meet a hostile aspect, I just want you to go, yes, whatever happens, just in the back of your mind, know that it's a good thing, because you're finally going to be able to release that trauma. And whether you can release it quickly, it might be something you can resolve in that journey, in that moment, or you might have to go and visit that part again and again to get a resolution. And I've done that myself with inner parts. I've had parts that, tried to really scare me off from meeting them, like splattering blood everywhere and horrible things like that, coming at me with knives, that kind of thing. These parts are hostile, right? They can be. But it's an aspect of you, and you are the one that has the power to, like, they'll learn to trust you as they see that you can just hold that. Yeah. Yeah, so powerful. Okay. Just on that one last thing, I guess I'm focusing on this particular tip because I'm aware that, I don't want people to go away and follow this advice and do this exercise and kind of, I have a really horrible impact on them down the track. So one last analogy is to think of, if you've ever imagined or done this yourself, fostering an animal that is been mistreated before, and so you bring this animal home, that's a cat, and all it does is hiss and growl at you for months. And every day you just have to go and visit the cat and just have to sit with the cat. And when you see the cat hissing and growling, you know that it's not personal, right? The cat's just showing you how it's been treated and expressing its pain. And over time, it will come to trust you, and it'll end up sitting on your lap purring, which we have a cat like that. She's a beautiful girl. So, yeah, okay. So that's enough on that one. Tip number 5, safety and sovereignty. I've kind of talked a bit about it, so I won't cover it too much, but like I said before, it's your conscious dreaming here. You're visualizing, you're in control of this, and you can alter it at any time. It's up to you. So if things are going in a way that doesn't feel comfortable for you as you're visualizing, you can guide yourself back to safety, your safe place. I'm just reading off some tips here that I've written down. You can bring in white or coloured light to provide healing. Again, trust yourself. What colour do you need at that time? White is always a healing and powerful protective colour, but other colours might suit you that you need. You can bring your awareness back to your body with touch or breath. So when we're doing this visualization exercise, we're kind of dissociating. We're going out of our bodies with our consciousness into this realm, this 4th dimensional and higher realm. So come back into the 3rd dimension. Come back through breath. Come back through touching. It's just really helpful to put your hand on your belly, or your heart, whatever, the heart is a good one as well. Your hands, yeah. So I'm here. Bring yourself back. You can affirm your power with words such as I am. I evoke my I am presence in this moment. I am. I am is very powerful. I am is beyond time and space. I am is the fact that you exist and there is no greater power. So you can draw on that simple statement, I am, to collapse those experiences that you were having in the visualization and bring you back into the now moment, which is where you have your power. You can say things like, I'm safe at all times. Another one that I use is given to me by Matt Kahn, who's a beautiful teacher. I serve the light of the divine, and the light of the divine serves me. So whatever it is that makes you feel safe, brings you back into your body, reminds you of your own sovereignty. If it is in your belief system, you can evoke supports from archangels, guides, ascended masters, or power animals. You can call on assistance at all times, so that might be helpful for you too. And something I like to do now is sort of, I just really enjoy this practice. I never started with this practice, but I developed it over the years, is to begin and end every visualization from your own heart space. So this is actually tip 6. It's all a tip of its own. So your heart space, your heart is your connection point between your physical self and your spiritual self. So it's a nexus that you can imagine, and you can, when I say begin and end, what I mean is as you drop into your relaxed body and you start to visualize, see your heart chamber. And for some of us, it's going to be quite functional. We might see a kind of a pinky space that we're in, like a little womb, the heart chamber. Mine is more symbolic. It's a beautiful area where there's a pool of water and crystal and like other kinds of things that are really beautiful, and staircases that go up and down, which take me to the different worlds. You'll create, again, your own lovely heart space. Maybe your heart space is your safe space that I was talking about before. It could well be. Or it might just be a ball of light inside your heart area. yeah, again, it's very personal, but that's a good place to begin, because if you begin in that heart space, you can, you know that you're beginning in a space of safety, and then you come back to that space of safety. So that's important, and I didn't really go into this in the safety tip. I should mention it now, that come back the way you came. So wherever you went in your journey, if you went like down a path and through a door and then you went into some mystical land, travel back that way, travel backwards as you come back to your body. Try not to just suddenly end a journey. And the reason I say that is it's about energies. It's about making sure that you haven't left a fragmented energy in the astral realm, really. You want to bring it always back to the physical realm. This is what we're here to do. We're here to integrate the energies of the realms and become multidimensional. So literally, literally time traveling. We're literally traveling through different dimensions and times when we do this stuff. It is really amazing and powerful as you start to develop these skills. But ultimately, we are here. We are here in the physical body for a reason, so we want to come back here. Okay, so the last tip is about integration. Again, like preparing for the visualization, take some time to integrate it afterwards. Don't rush off and go to a party or go out to work. It can actually be a very powerful experience, and it's really great to just let that settle in, let that knowledge, whatever's been given to you, whether it's a strong emotion, maybe you had a strong emotional reaction, trust that, integrate it by feeling it. We have so much power when we just feel our emotions, when we allow them to be there, then they're like, they disappear, they're gone, right? So perhaps fear was evoked, for example, in order for you to process that and release it. So trust that, or maybe grief. It could have also brought up grief. Trust your emotions, and a nice way of integrating is to journal and write down, diarize whatever it was that happened for you, and taking care of yourself afterwards, eating a nourishing meal, having a nice bath, going for a walk, talking to a trusted friend, I don't know, whatever it is for you, taking care of yourself and honoring this process, this really beautiful gift that you've given yourself of visualization and journeying. So I really hope that is going to help some people, to some of you out there, to go and explore what is within your consciousness. You can trust yourself. We're so trained, we're so programmed to look outside for wisdom, to go to a textbook or a teacher, or I don't know, scientist, or whatever it is, or a pill, or a plant medicine, whatever it would train to kind of reach for these external things, when in fact we have so much wisdom within us. I just want to give you, I guess, an example, a practical example now to finish off, to show you how powerful this can be. I had hip problems, a kind of arthritis in my hip due to hip dysplasia, and years of being a kickboxer and overusing my hip. Way too many roundhouse kicks. So my poor old hip has been very sore for a long time, and I've gone through, the doctor's analysis of it and recommendations for surgery and all that sort of thing, and I'm like, no, I want to do it naturally. And last year it was really causing me grief, so I decided to do a journey on it, and I was shown through my own inner wisdom how the hip is representing in my being the wounded feminine aspect of myself. That's where the wounds of the feminine are being held, and the solution was actually to cultivate my inner masculine, to come and devote with devotional loving, devote healing to this hip. So rather than like trying to fix the hip and get rid of the problem, the advice from inner guidance was actually to love my hip, like to just devote so much care and attention to this beautiful hip, and to thank the hip for holding the burden of pain all these years. So also the divine masculine is about the rational, logical part of ourselves that plans and sequences things and can have an end goal and is very organized and structured. So that part of myself was really helpful for the healing of my hip, because I could consult that part and go, what do I need? It led me on a journey of finding out, the different essential oils I needed to use for my hip, how I needed to change the gait of my walk, the massage techniques that I could use, the white light invocations, all sorts of things that I knew were available for me. This masculine side was able to go, right, these are the tools, these are the steps, this is what I need to implement to look after this beautiful feminine side that was in pain. And just like a really devoted lover, it was that love that is going to be able to heal my hip. So I've had a lot of success with the hip. It still hurts a little bit, but always when Sorry guys, I was cut off there, low battery card. Look, I had finished it really. I think that's all I had to say. Yeah, I hope it's useful, and just wishing you everybody lots of luck with this technique. As I said, I'll put some references down the bottom, but really it's up to you to explore and find your own pathway. This is just some guidelines and some ideas for you to follow. Things I wish I knew years ago that I now know, but I guess we come to this knowledge in the right time, as with everything. There is divine timing. So many blessings, lots of love, and I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.